The night I realized my husband had truly erased me from his life, I was sitting alone on our wide bed, listening to rain beat the roof like angry fingers. The other side of the bed was cold. It had been cold for years. Still, my heart broke like it was the first time. My name is Margaret Collins, and I am a grandmother now. But this story began when my hair was still black and my hopes were still loud. Margaret, don't wait up, my husband, Robert Collins, said one evening without even looking at me. He was fixing his cufflinks in the mirror. I smiled weakly. It's our anniversary tonight. He paused. Just 1 second. Then he shrugged. I'll make it up to you. He never did. That was the first year he stopped sleeping with me. At first, I thought it was stress. Robert was a businessman. People respected him. Money followed him like a loyal dog. He owned stores, houses, cars. Everyone called him lucky. I called him my husband. But slowly, the nights became longer. The bed became emptier. And my heart became tired. I tried everything. I cooked his favorite meals. Fried chicken just the way his mother taught me. Warm apple pie with extra cinnamon. I dressed up even when my knees hurt. I smiled even when my chest burned. One night, I stood in front of him in a soft blue nightdress. Robert, I said gently, did I do something wrong? He sighed like I was a problem he didn't have time for. Margaret, you're overthinking things. Go to sleep. I went to sleep alone. The rumors started in the 3rd year. At church, women whispered when I passed. At the market, silence followed me. One day, my friend Linda pulled me aside near the fruit stand. Margaret, she said, lowering her voice, you didn't hear this from me. I already knew I would. Robert has other women. My hand shook. What do you mean? She swallowed. Concubines. Not one. Several. I laughed. A dry, broken laugh. That's not funny. Linda didn't laugh back. That night, I confronted him. Is it true? I asked, standing in the doorway. Robert didn't deny it. They're just companions, he said calmly. You should be grateful. Everything you have comes from me. My ears rang. Companions? You stopped touching your wife for them. He looked at me like I was small. Don't make noise over things you can't change. That sentence followed me for 10 years. 10 years. 10 years of sleeping alone. 10 years of pretending in front of family. 10 years of watching younger women enter my house like queens while I became furniture. They laughed loudly. They wore expensive perfumes. They never greeted me properly. One of them, Vanessa, once said to my face, you should rest more, Grandma. I was only 46. Robert built them houses. Bought them cars. Paid their salon bills. Paid their silence. And me? He paid me with neglect. But I stayed. Why? Because of my children. Because of shame. Because sometimes leaving feels harder than dying slowly. At night, when the house was quiet, I prayed. God, if you see me, don't forget me. Sometimes I cried into my pillow. Sometimes I laughed at myself. Once, when Robert came home drunk, I said jokingly, do you even remember my name? He stared at me for a long moment. Margaret, he said slowly, like he was searching a dusty shelf. I laughed, but my heart cracked. Years passed. My children grew. Grandchildren came. I became the strong grandmother everyone admired. But inside, I was empty. Then, something strange happened in the 10th year. The phone started ringing. A lot. Robert shouted more. Slept less. Ate little. One evening, he came home and threw his briefcase on the floor. Those fools betrayed me, he growled. I poured him water calmly. Who? Business partners. Banks. Everyone. I watched him closely. For the first time in years, fear lived in his eyes. The next week, one concubine left. Then another. Vanessa packed her bags loudly. You men are useless when money ends, she snapped at Robert. He didn't reply. Soon, the big cars disappeared. The drivers stopped coming. The expensive wines were replaced by tap water. One afternoon, I overheard him on the phone. Please, he said quietly. Just give me more time. I leaned against the wall, my heart pounding. Robert Collins, the mighty man, was begging. Weeks later, the house felt smaller. The power went off once. Twice. On the third time, Robert sat in darkness, his face buried in his hands. I said nothing. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late. I was reading quietly when I heard soft knocking on my bedroom door. That door had been ignored for 10 years. "Margaret," a voice whispered. I froze. "Margaret, please." I opened the door slowly. Robert stood there. No confidence. No pride. Just a tired man with empty pockets and shaking hands. "I need to talk," he said. I folded my arms. "About what?" He swallowed. "About us." I stared at him, my heart racing. For 10 years, he chose his concubines over me. And now that his money was finished, he remembered I was his wife. He stepped closer. "I made mistakes." I laughed. Loud and sharp. "Mistakes? You built houses for mistakes." Tears filled his eyes. Real tears. "They all left," he said. "I have no one." I looked at him carefully. "No," I said slowly. "You have always had no one. You just didn't notice." He dropped to his knees. "Please," he begged. "Pray for me. Bless me. You're a good woman." My chest tightened. 10 years of silence. 10 years of pain. And now he wanted my blessing. I said nothing, because at that moment, I remembered every lonely night, every insult, every tear. And I wondered, what would I do next? Robert stayed on his knees for a long time. So long that my legs started to ache just from watching him. "Stand up," I finally said. He shook his head. "I deserve this." I laughed again, but this time there was no humor in it. "You don't get to choose how you suffer, Robert. You already chose how I suffered." He slowly stood, wiping his face with the back of his hand like a tired child. "I was stupid," he said. "I thought money would never finish." I walked past him and sat on the edge of the bed. The same bed he abandoned for 10 years. "You didn't just abandon the bed," I said. "You abandoned me." He opened his mouth, then closed it. Words failed him. That was new. For years, he had words for everything. Orders. Insults. Excuses. Now he had none. That night, he slept on the floor. Not because I told him to. Because he didn't dare ask. The next morning, he followed me into the kitchen like a shadow. "What are you making?" he asked softly. "Oatmeal," I replied. He nodded. "Smells nice." I didn't offer him any. He watched me eat in silence. That silence was louder than his old shouting. By afternoon, the news spread fast. When money leaves a man, it doesn't walk, it runs. Family members who once greeted him with wide smiles now called only when necessary. Some didn't call at all. Our son, Michael, visited that evening. He hugged me tightly. "Mom, are you okay?" I smiled. "I've been okay for years." Michael looked at his father, who sat quietly in the corner. "Dad," he said slowly, "is it true you lost everything?" Robert nodded. "Almost everything." Michael sighed. "You should have listened to Mom." Robert lowered his head. That sentence hit harder than any insult. Later that night, I overheard Robert talking to himself. "I built everything," he muttered. "How did it vanish so fast?" I leaned against the wall, remembering the nights I asked the same question. How did my marriage vanish so fast? Days passed. Robert became polite. Too polite. "Good morning, Margaret." "Thank you, Margaret." "Please." The same mouth that once dismissed me now begged me for attention. One evening, he brought out an old photo album. "Do you remember this?" he asked, pointing to a picture of us laughing at the beach. I stared at the photo. I remembered that day clearly. He had held my hand. He had looked at me like I was enough. "I remember," I said quietly. He smiled weakly. "We were happy." I closed the album. We were. You weren't satisfied. That night, he tried to sleep on the bed. I didn't stop him. But I didn't move closer either. The space between us felt wider than ever. The next week, something unexpected happened. Vanessa returned. She came in a loud red dress, high heels clicking like gunshots on the floor. "I left my jewelry," she announced. Robert stood quickly. "Vanessa." She waved him off. "Relax. I'm not here for you." She looked at me up and down. "So you're still here?" "Yes," I said calmly. "It's my house." She laughed. "For now." I stepped closer. It was my house even when you slept in it. Her smile faded. She grabbed her jewelry and turned to leave. At the door, she paused. He's useless now, you know. I nodded. He was useless before. You just didn't notice. She left without another word. Robert sat down heavily. They don't respect me anymore, he whispered. I poured myself tea. Respect isn't rented, Robert. You sold yours. That night, he cried again. I didn't comfort him. I had cried alone for 10 years. One morning, he surprised me. I sold my last car, he said. I raised an eyebrow. And? I paid part of my debt. I nodded. Good. He hesitated. I want to start over. I looked at him carefully. With what? With you, he said. I almost laughed. Almost. You don't start over by remembering me when you're broke, I said. You start over by telling the truth. He nodded slowly. Ask me anything. I took a deep breath. How many? He froze. How many what? How many women did you replace me with? He swallowed. 6. My heart skipped, then steadied. For how long? 10 years. Did you ever miss me? He hesitated too long. That was my answer. Later that day, my daughter Sarah called. Mom, she said, Dad wants me to talk to you. I smiled sadly. Of course he does. He's asking everyone to pray for him. I laughed softly. He should. That night, Robert knelt again. I need your blessing, he said. Everything I touch fails. I studied him. The man who once controlled my life now believed I controlled his fate. Blessing doesn't come from fear, I said. It comes from change. I'll change, he promised quickly. I stood up. People always promise when they're hungry. He reached for my hand. Please. I pulled away gently. I'm not your last option, I said. I'm your wife. He broke down completely. But even as he cried, my heart whispered a dangerous question. Was he sorry for what he did? Or sorry he had nothing left? And as I lay awake that night, listening to his uneven breathing beside me, I realized something else. The hardest part wasn't deciding whether to forgive him. It was deciding whether he deserved to be remembered as my husband again. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. The house was quiet. Too quiet. For years, I had dreamed of this silence. No laughing concubines, no late-night phone calls, no perfume that wasn't mine. But now that it was here, it felt heavy. I went to the living room and found Robert sitting on the couch, staring at the wall. He hadn't slept. Good morning, I said. He turned quickly, like a child caught doing something wrong. Morning. I sat across from him. We need to talk. He straightened. Yes, anything. I took a deep breath. My voice was calm, but my heart was loud. For 10 years, you chose other women over me, I said. Not 1 year. Not a mistake. 10 long years. He nodded slowly. I know. You watched me grow older alone. You watched me become invisible in my own house. I was blind, he whispered. No, I said firmly. You could see very well. You just didn't care. He flinched. I am not angry anymore, I continued. Anger finished inside me years ago. What I feel now is clarity. He leaned forward. Margaret, I can change. I swear. I looked at him, really looked at him. The confidence that once filled the room was gone. The rich man everyone feared was now just a tired husband with empty hands. You didn't come back because you love me, I said quietly. You came back because you lost everything else. Tears rolled down his cheeks. That's not true. I smiled sadly. If you still had money, would you be kneeling here? He opened his mouth, then closed it. That silence answered me. I stood up. My knees trembled, but my spirit felt strong. For 10 years, I prayed for peace, I said. Not revenge. Not riches. Just peace. I walked to the window and watched the sun rise slowly. And now, I finally have it. He stood too. What does that mean? I turned to him. It means I forgive you. His face lit up with hope. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. But forgiveness is not the same as returning, I added. His smile froze. I forgive you so my heart can rest, I said. Not so you can use me as your last shelter. He shook his head. So, what are you saying? I am your wife by law, I said calmly. But I am no longer your wife by sacrifice. He dropped back onto the couch. I will pray for you, I continued. I will not curse you. I will not mock you. But I will also not pretend the past did not happen. He covered his face. I deserve this. Yes, I agreed gently. You do. Later that day, I gathered the family. Our children sat quietly. They already knew something had changed. I spoke clearly. Your father and I will live separately in peace. Robert looked up, shocked. Margaret. I raised my hand. This is my decision. No one argued. Because for the first time in years, my voice did not shake. That evening, as Robert packed his small bag, he paused at the door. I really lost you, he said. I met his eyes. You lost me 10 years ago. Today, I just stopped pretending. He nodded slowly and walked out. I closed the door gently. No shouting. No drama. Just finality. That night, I slept alone. But for the first time in 10 years, the bed did not feel cold. It felt free. And as I whispered my final prayer before sleep, I realized something powerful. When his money finished, he remembered I was his wife. But when my suffering finished, I remembered who I was. I thought the story had ended when Robert walked out of the house. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, he returned. Not with pride. Not with excuses. With humility. He stood at the gate, thinner, quieter, holding a small envelope. No car. No driver. Just him. I did not invite him in. We talked right there, under the open sky. I have been staying with my brother, he said. I finally hear myself think. I nodded. And what does your thinking say? He swallowed. That I wasted a good woman. I waited. I went to church, he continued. Not to beg God for money. To ask him why I became so cruel. That caught my attention. I realized something, he said softly. I didn't stop sleeping with you because you failed me. I stopped because success made me proud. I looked at him closely. Pride is expensive. Yes, he said. And I paid the full price. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a signed document. He had transferred the house fully into my name. No tricks, he said quickly. No plans. I just wanted to do one right thing without expecting reward. For the first time in many years, my chest felt light. You don't need my blessing anymore, I said. You needed accountability. He nodded. I know. We stood in silence. Then he said something unexpected. I am not asking you to take me back. I raised my eyebrows. I am asking you to respect me again, he said. Even if it's from a distance. I smiled. A real smile. That, I said, is the first wise thing you've said in 10 years. He laughed quietly. I guess suffering finally taught me. I opened the gate and let him in. Not as a husband. Not as a king. But as a human being who finally understood loss. We sat and talked like strangers learning each other again. No touching. No promises. Just truth. That night, after he left, I sat alone and reflected. 10 years ago, I begged for his attention. Now, he begged for my respect. Life has strange lessons. Robert lost his money and remembered he had a wife. I lost my fear and remembered I had worth. Whether our paths will join again, I do not yet know. But one thing is clear. A woman who survives neglect becomes stronger than a man who survives riches. And sometimes, the real blessing is not reconciliation. It is freedom with dignity. Thanks for watching. Kindly drop your comment about this story. And please subscribe to this channel for more interesting stories.